I'd appreciate it. Great. Everyone, welcome
Thank
to
you.
the Friday, August 9th, 4 p.m. meeting of the Madaket Area Work Group. I appreciate you showing up. Based on who's online with us, we have a quorum. And so now I unfortunately have to read the opening statement that's required, and I will start with good afternoon. Welcome to the Madaket Area Plan Work Group meeting. This open meeting of the Madaket Area Plan Work Group is being conducted in a hybrid format. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the town's YouTube channel. The chair will conduct a roll call for attendance and on all votes as necessary. Zoom participants are asked to identify themselves when they speak. Your name will be noted on the screen under your Zoom connection, other than Joe, who's known as the Town Committee 3. And someone here has owner's iPhone. I think that's
Tom.
all participants are asked to mute unless they're addressing the committee or they want to be quiet. For public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comments to members of the public. Members of the public making comments are to announce their name and any affiliation. So I'm now going to conduct a roll call for the record. The chair, Bruce Mandel, is here. Lars Soderberg.
Present.
Leslie Forbes. Hinani, okay. Michael Maynard.
Present.
Thank you. Ethan Devine is not here. Tom Erickson.
Present.
Thank you. David Madigan. He's traveling. I think he sent an email saying he's going to be on a plane. Peter Haffenreffer.
Present.
Thank you very much. Joseph Topham.
Here.
Jesse Bell. Cormac Collier. Not present. Emily Molden. Not present. Kitty Parkman, not present. Thank you very much. That takes care of the roll call and getting us organized and started. There are no members of the public that I can see that are present, so that part of the agenda can be skipped. I made a couple of groups when I wrote up the agenda and had it published, so I'm going to correct them as we move forward. The next item is listed as approval of minutes of the May 10th, 2024 meeting. That's incorrect. It should say approval of the minutes of the July 12th, 2024 meeting. So at this point, I believe that we have distributed those draft minutes, and I'd like to ask if anybody has any corrections or amendments they would like to offer. Seeing none, I guess I should push this okay here. Thank you. I will now accept a motion to approve of the minutes of the July 12th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Tom.
Tom. And it was seconded by, come on, confess.
I think maybe I think I said so moved. And I think Leslie may have said.
Okay, so you're the victim. Thank you.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. We had a request from a nice fella that we met at the MCA annual meeting, a guy by the name of John Hernandez. He lives on Madaket Road, and he's very interested in a couple of issues that we're dealing with, a couple of chapters. And I sent him an invitation to attend this meeting as a member of the public. And Joe Topham suggested that he write a letter to NPEDC expressing interest in joining our work group and perhaps say why. And then if he did it quickly, NPEDC might vote on it before or during their September meeting in time for him to become a member in September. I went into the town website to a select board meeting and picked out a couple of examples of people filling out the form where they expressed interest in a town committee. And there are several standard questions that the town asks. Things like, have you attended any meetings before? Why are you interested? Things like that. And I sent him that link and suggested that he look at it to help him craft his letter. Apparently, he has not attending this, but I wanted you to let you know about this. Bill Greeter introduced him, and he suggested that we consider it, since we had a couple of resignations from our committee. So that's where that item stands. Does anyone have any questions about that? Leslie Forbes. You're muted.
I remember John I don't know him, at speaking at the annual meeting, asking a question. Do we know anything about John and his interest? And I assume he lives in Madaket. I just would like to have a little more information about him from anybody who might have some.
I will send you a little bit of information that I have. I did some research. I looked him up on the street list. He is listed in the street list as a resident, a year-round resident, and as a registered voter. He's apparently married because there's a female Hernandez listed at the same address with the approximate same birth year. As a matter of fact, I think she's 2 years older than he is. And he wrote me a little 3-sentence email kind of expressing what his interests are. I don't have it handy, but I will send a copy of that to each of you. And I think that'll give you a little bit of an understanding. And I had hoped he would be here to speak as a public comment to express his interest, but he's not here. So I'm a little flat-footed. I didn't want to bomb you with all kinds of distributions, but let me make a note to send out some info. And
Thank
I will try to do that promptly. Is that satisfactory, Leslie?
It sounds great.
Okay.
I think it's,
Anybody else have any questions about Mr. Hernandez? Seeing none, I'll go on to the next item on the.
Lars, wait a minute, Bruce. Lars wanted to speak, but he's muted.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lars, I didn't see you. You're muted.
That was my fault. I couldn't hit the right unmute button. I just on Leslie, I just, if somehow it's fine to apply to do this, but I think he should express to all of us why he wants to do this. That's all. What's his motivation? And does he know how much writing he's going to do?
Well, I'm going to suggest to him that when he prepares the letter to NPEDC, that he provide us with a copy, which I will share with all of you. I'm not sure what kind of procedure there is that the existing members of a work group might say yay or nay. Maybe Joe Topham, can you give us a little bit of your insight?
about him getting on. I mean, I think. it
Yeah,
really
the
comes-
procedure and
So
how
basically,
we
he
were
writes the letter.
evaluated.
So he writes the letter. I think that we all should, be shared it. If there's a phone number, I think if you guys want, you should reach out and have a conversation with him. I think it would kind of be helpful if, we individually or as a group wrote a letter saying, we met with him and we think he's going to be fantastic on our board and he's interested and knows the time commitment, etc. And then that would help as far as the NPDC, giving him the nod to be on this board.
Okay, so basically, Lois, what we have is we've asked him to prepare a letter and to use the town's outline for how people express interest in working on a committee. And as far as the town is concerned, when you do that, it's submitted to the town and they review it, and the people are then given an opportunity to attend a select board meeting and speak for a minute or two about why they're interested in being on a committee and what qualifications they may have or special interests they may have. And then the select board votes on it. The step that I'm not sure is, can we vote on it? Leslie?
He's by himself?
You might remember that early on, while NPEDC was
Okay.
writing protocol for
me too.
how these area plans would meet, that one of the points that we and other area plans made was that we wanted a great deal of input into who is on the committee, realizing that
can I
it is
just
the
interrupt you 1 second?
NPEDC.
Can I do it? Sorry, 1 second. I just got an email from Kitty and John Hernandez. They went to the wrong link, so I just sent them the new link and they should be coming over any minute.
Oh,
All right.
that's great.
Thank
So yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't want to go down too far the river. He said he already made a rookie mistake.
So I want to, but I would like, I think to some extent, we might have the cart before the horse. I think John should be speaking to the members of the Madaket area plan before he initiates the contact with NPEDC. That,
You know, that-
we're the body that is in the trenches with this. And the NPDC certainly, they made it very clear that they are and the ones who appointed the members, but they would not do that without consulting with us. So,
That's a
and
good point, because we had told NPEDC when we were dealing with the disbanding of the Madaket
advisory board,
Review Committee, when we were reviewing HDC plans, that we would prefer that the folks doing the reviewing were Madaket residents. Part of why I gave John the contact info for this meeting was so that he could meet us and talk to us. And Joe, it sounds like that John may be joining us now.
Well, this is what he wrote, and Kitty just joined the meeting at 4.
Kitty is with us now.
So good afternoon. My apologies. I made a rookie mistake, but I clicked on the Zoom link and it said waiting for the host meeting. So I think he got the old agenda, which had the wrong number. Please straighten me out and let me know what I'm doing wrong. I hope to see you soon. Cheers. Thank you, JP. So I said that to him. I sent the new link, so hopefully he popped. Oh, there we go. Ready, everyone? Welcome.
So we finally got Kitty. Hi, Kitty. Oh, here's Mr. Hernandez. If you would please, John, turn on your video, which is in that small box on the upper right-hand corner, so that we can see who we're talking about. There we go.
Here we go.
We just got to the part of our agenda, John, where we were mentioning that you had expressed some interest in joining the work group. And of course, we're curious to know your thoughts and why you would be interested, what you'd be interested in. And I mentioned that I had shared with you a link to the town's website select board where they have the forms for the expressing interest in a committee that might help you write a letter to us and to the NPEDC to tell us why you'd like to work with us. So if you don't mind, I'd like to turn it over to you for a little bit. Not too long, you know, we only have an hour. But John, pick up a bat and step into the batter's box.
Okay, hey, thanks. Hopefully, that sounds like a fastball down the middle, so hopefully I can hit it. Yeah, obviously, first of all, I don't know everybody here yet. I attended the annual meeting and thought that was a great venue and a great opportunity to meet some neighbors and just see, you know, what some of the big, you know, topics of interest were for others in Madaket. And, you know, for myself, I would say the reason to get involved, in short, is to sort of stop being a, you know, sort of a freeloader. You know, I've been lucky to be in Madaket since 2018. My family's been coming, in my wife's case, since she was 2 years old to Nantucket. So there's an enormous amount of love and appreciation for Nantucket, for Madaket. But we have done, I would say, probably not enough to just stay involved and make a contribution to the community, continue to make Madaket a special place. I think, Bruce, your questions about, you know, exactly how I plug in here, you know, I don't mean to punt on this too much, but I would just say, you know, respectfully, I am still looking to kind of listen and learn and understand where I can be most useful. You know, so it's, you know, I did skim through some of those, you know, the committees and how it's structured and so on, but I'm looking to sort of just be involved in a way where I can be, you know, a positive contributor and impactful to this community that, you know, we all love so much.
That's good, John. I know you sent me an
And you can call me, everybody can call me
very brief
JP, by the way. Everybody can call me JP, by the way.
Okay.
Nobody since my dad has called me John Patrick, so JP is A-okay.
Okay, JP it is.
All right.
JP, you shared like a 2 or 3 sentence email with me telling me which chapters you might want to work on and why. Why don't you briefly repeat that for the group?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't have that email in front of me, so I don't remember how they were. If you have it, feel free to read from it. But I would say, you know, the things that stand out to me, just, you know, forgetting exactly how they map to the committee's structure and so on, is, you know, obviously we face the threats of coastal erosion, environmental impacts. I'm interested in understanding how our planning agenda can, you know, our future looking view of Madaket sort of intertwines with that. I'm certainly interested in aspects of, you know, zoning, development, these sort of questions about, you know, how do we make sure that Madaket remains sort of the special place that we all, you know, really know and love and care about for years to come. And so those are just some hypotheses about where I might plug in. But again, until I learn more, I just treat me as a rookie who doesn't know nothing, and looking to really kind of listen and learn.
Thank you for that. Does anybody on the call with us here today have any questions they would like to ask JP?
I do.
Thank you. This is
Yes.
JP. This is Leslie Ford.
Hi, JP. We try to make sure that this committee is broad and diverse. So one of the questions that we should probably all introduce ourselves to you. But we like to have a mix of people who live here year round and people who are seasonal. So can you fill us in on whether you're year round, whether you're seasonal? If you're seasonal, how much time you're here? You may not know how much time this committee is going to take. So a little bit more along that line would be helpful for me.
Yeah, sure.
All of us, actually.
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I would say we are failing to be year round at this point. So, you know, we all through the pandemic, we were year round, and so spent, you know, 2, 3, you know, full years, whatever it was. My wife recently took a job, and she had some flexibility well beyond sort of whatever you want to call COVID over or something, but she had some job flexibility beyond that for a little while. So really year round was our thing for quite a while. But she's recently taken a job in the Boston area. So we have sort of a crash pad in Boston, We're in Nantucket as much as we reasonably can be. Her job is defined as a remote position, so, or a hybrid position. So, you know, she's not here to speak to it, but I would say that, you know, really, I think she's trying to sort of, you know, start to have kind of a positive impact in that job before we figure out exactly how much we want to shift back to being, you know,
Yeah.
on Nantucket as regular as we'd like to be. So long-winded answer, but that's kind of how I see it.
Well, we are a mix of seasonal and year-round people now, so
Yeah.
that's what we want.
Yeah.
And so that's good. And does your work, your expertise overlap with any of the issues that are facing us, such as coastal erosion? Or are you a coastal engineer or anything like that?
No, I wish that were the case. You know, I would hope that that you're looking to some degree for people who are, you know, are well-rounded as you know, problem solvers and so on. And I didn't quite know this was the interview, so I didn't.
I don't know that, I don't mean to do that. We can.
That's
but-
okay. I'm happy to talk to that. So, you know, my own background, I would say, is really kind of a, you know, a Swiss Army knife sort of general purpose, you know, entrepreneur, business builder. So began sort of in I sort of really came up as a professional at a place called Bridgewater, which is a finance place. It's a bit of a funky thing to overlay with entrepreneurship, but really that was a place that was going through a lot of change, and it was sort of building up from sort of Bridgewater is a whole long story, but a very successful place that could transform into much more of an institution. So they were looking to bring young people in and have them sort of become the future leaders of the company and so on. So they'd let 27-year-olds run whole departments. And I thought that was cool as a kind of training ground for future leadership and entrepreneurship. I ran a mission-driven commercial cleaning company for a number of years. That's again a whole other thing, but really sort of the ability to take something from an idea all the way to the actualization is something I think I have some familiarity with. You know, my work today is really more in sort of, you know, and this includes our own property in Nantucket, but others as well. You know, we are lucky to have a number of places that we own and manage as a business. And so, yeah, I think that's that gives you a bit, probably a rough sketch anyway of what I've been up to professionally.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, JP. It's not easy to jump into something like this, and we appreciate your making these comments. I think, Peter, you had a question?
Yeah, just briefly, just a point to make to JP when he said he wants to listen and learn. As much as we get through some stuff in these Zoom calls, I'm not sure we're going to learn a lot about the substance of what we're trying to do by listening to these calls, which is not a slight to the call. It's just that that's what they're not really designed for that. A lot more procedural stuff. I would encourage JP to reach out and contact people and talk to them, find out what we're doing. You know, now that we're really just starting to get into the nitty-gritty of writing up these plans, I think you'll learn a lot more that way, bumping into people on the beach, whatever it might be, seeking out people that are on the committee to find out what they're doing. We do have to be careful, and this is something you probably haven't bumped into yet. There are certain rules governing the not quite sure how to say it, the creation and advancement of ideas relative to the plan that is not supposed to happen outside of a public like this, a public call, a public Zoom call, because of the open meeting laws. So we can't sit down and discuss chapter 5 of the plan, but I think generally you can ask people, how do things work and what are you doing? Correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce, but I think if JP thinks he's going to get way ahead of the curve on the Zoom calls, I'm not sure he is.
Well, that's a very good point, and that's why we have this overall Zoom call once a month. We got permission, JP, it's going to be a learning experience for you on how to tap dance through the open meeting law, and thankfully Joe Topham is there to crack the whip when I push reply all when I shouldn't. But we have to be very careful, and it's why we have broken up our work group into smaller sub-work groups. And the smaller sub-work groups are working on a specific chapter. There are 9 chapters in an area plan. And I will get you a list of those, and you could pick out 1 or 2 that you're really interested in that seem to fit the bill. The list of chapters very briefly expresses what the topics are supposed to be about. And we deal with them by using Google Drive, where folks can input their information into a folder for that chapter, and other people can read them and make suggestions and comments on it. But we're not discussing them or making deliberations unless we're in this particular meeting. So it's complicated, and I'll eventually get the hang of it, and then hopefully the others will too. Joe, do you want to offer anything? Oh, I see Lars has his hand up. I didn't want him to hurt.
JP, very nice to meet you, and I know we all appreciate anyone that wants to roll their sleeves up and help Madaket. So your comments are well taken. I think just in interest of time, I think Peter, your comments are perfect. I don't think this particular forum, JP is going to learn a lot about us or exactly what we're doing, but so I would suggest we get JP a list of the chapter topics and perhaps the committee heads, and JP on your own initiative, feel any of them, reach out to any, but we're obviously a very approachable, nice, fun group here. So it's not, if you reach out to any of us, we'll be happy to have a conversation with you or sit down and have a cup of coffee with you or something. But I think we should move forward because we're halfway through this meeting. We haven't done anything yet.
Thank you.
Let's move on. And then JP, when you get the list from Bruce, reach out 1, 2, 5, 6, however many people you feel like talking to. And I think then you'll kind of understand what we're doing. And I'll pause there.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Joe, you had a comment, please?
Yeah, JP, welcome. My name is Joseph Topham. I am the NPDC member on this board, but I'm also own land in Madaket with my brothers and sisters. But what I would say is, why don't you and I have a conversation sometime? I can kind of bring up to speed of what this group and the master plan and how we're all working to do that and work together, and how, Madaket is unique and special in its own way. But I really think it'd be great to have another voice on here. So it's great, but I think that you and I should have a one-on-one. So I will email you my contact information, my cell phone number, and we can have a conversation. And then I think Lars is right. Just kind of let's get back to the things that on hand.
Thank you.
All right, welcome.
Okay, does anyone else have any comments on this subject? Michael?
Just a very, very quick question. I'm wondering if you received over the last couple of years our surveys and were able to fill those out related to the area plan.
Am I muted still? No, I think I'm unmuted.
No, you're on.
You say surveys, plural. I believe I filled out a survey, so not multiple, but one.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's just probably helpful for you and for us in when we have our one-on-ones.
Yeah, once we get you going, we'll share the results of those surveys. You'll find them interesting as they apply to whatever subject you're interested in.
They're a key driver in what we're doing.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to move on to the rest of the agenda as much as we can within the next half hour before we adjourn. The next item I listed, and I have, again, I mentioned I made 2 omissions. One is we have some information on chapter 7 now, and also on chapter 8, because Mike Burns finally replied to us, the transportation planner. And what I'd like to do before we get into the chapters, Mike has offered to come to our September meeting to speak with us about essentially chapter 8, circulation issues. And we've got a long list of items, of course, that we haven't intention of folding into that chapter, which I can share with you. But I would like the committee to decide whether you want to spend 15 or 20 minutes with Mike Burns during our September meeting. Anyone? Okay, I got 4 thumbs up, 1 nod. Another thumbs up. Okay, I will write back to Mike and confirm that we're inviting him for that meeting. Thank you. Moving on now to chapter 5. We've had some initial draft notes on chapter 5. Peter wrote up a base document about 3 months ago. And since that time, I threw a couple of comments in that document. Ethan Devine did, and Kitty Parkman did. And I think I sent that out to you so you could read it before the meeting. You may not have gotten the version that had Kitty's comments on it. And of course, JP, you're not allowed to talk about it. So. This was chapter 5 is natural and cultural resources. Peter, why don't you briefly summarize what you sent out and where it stands?
Sure. I was using existing information in terms of format for the points that needed to be covered. I probably took a little bit of leeway on some of them, but they seem to match up with what amounted to a resource inventory in Madaket, which is the first list under section 2. And that was also, people a while ago added in some of those. Actually, Bruce, I think you did as well. And then I took the policy points, the individual points of policy that we wanted to address, and kind of tied them into the natural resources part of this chapter 5 summary. And what I realized after having looked at what was sent in for chapter 7 is, you know, I didn't, these aren't positions, these are questions. And I think I very easily could have turned these into the position of this committee on each of these policies. In other words, just to make the point simple, under section 3A1, which says position on reduction, elimination of fertilizers. Well, I think I could have very easily have just said, it is the position of the MAP that we would like to see the use of fertilizers reduced or eliminated. And I'm being a little bit simplistic here, but that's the point. We can pretty easily take the issues that we've written down here and turn them into positions for the group. And again, because I think we've lost some members here and we're down to probably 3 or 4 people in each of the committees, it may be that the simplest thing is for one person just to convert all of this into positions, then circulate it amongst the subcommittee, if you will, to say, no, actually, that isn't our position, or I don't believe this should be our position, or whatever. And that way we can come together with a single position, if that's in fact a requirement for the MAP on each of these subchapters. So again, just to looking at it from a simplistic standpoint, I could take that 3A1 and say it is the position. And this again sort of follows the pattern that was submitted for the chapter 7. Each of the points was taken and it was stated as the position of the MAP, which I think was brilliant in that it just eliminates a whole bunch of back and forth, in between the start and the finish. So I would offer to do that with this and turn these where I feel comfortable doing it, into the position of the Madaket Area Planning Committee, and then send it out. And this is where we may be bumping into open meeting issues. So I would send it to Bruce, who would then have to send it to us individually, I guess, because that would otherwise sound like I'm advancing the content, which I think is the area where we run into problems.
Either that, Peter, either that, or we would post it to the Google Drive under the folder for chapter 5 and just tell everyone, hey, it's there, go take a look at it, and you can make comments.
Yeah, and make comments with your initials so we know who's saying what. Yeah, that would work. that would work. But so two questions. Do people trust that I can do that? And secondly, is there anyone else that really wants to do it?
Well, that's
Having
That's a
seen those
question.
hands raised, as you like to
that's
say,
a
Bruce.
question for your subcommittee, your work group. And somewhere I've got a list of the people on your committee. I think there are about 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
If those folks could respond to Peter, that would be helpful. As individuals, again, you're just identifying what you're interested in. You're not making any deliberations or decisions. It's important to keep that in mind because that's part of this open meeting law. And Peter did a very nice job on chapter 5, and I'll just try to keep this brief before we move on to chapter 1. Of course, he wrote up on the various points that we deal with and the policy on water quality. There are 5 positions there. He's got something on sea level rise, on housing density, controlling invasive species. Is there anyone here that doesn't have a copy of that document? Because I don't have to read it if you all have it. Or can't get it handily. Everybody's got it or no?
Yes, yes.
See?
Good.
Oh, bueno. Okay, so I don't have to go through it, but I want to compliment Peter on the work he did here. This is a pretty time-consuming and thoughtful process that he's done. Obviously, Kitty read it and provided some very meaningful comments. Ethan was pretty detailed in a couple of his comments on policy on viewscapes and maintaining our open spaces and conservation land, which I found interesting. And of course, I made a couple of little comments too. And I would look forward to seeing everybody else's comments on this. But as I said, I've been struggling a little bit with my new computer operating system, but I think I finally figured out how to put these files into the chapter folders on the Google Drive. And I'll go back in and make sure that the latest version of this, which was on the 8th of August, yesterday, when Kitty made her comments known. So does anyone have any other comments on the chapter 5 progress? Michael?
I think Peter did a good job with the first pass in terms of just creating a format that will lend itself to standardization as we kind of go across the others. Obviously, the items change, but an approach. And I would certainly support Peter taking on his suggested next pass. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't know whether you think it should go to just the subcommittee members before it goes to everyone else, but his committee basically has everybody on the screen on it. It's a big group. So yeah, I think that's fine. That makes sense.
Thank you for that, Michael. Anybody else?
Bruce, I have a question. You said Kitty made some comments. I don't think I've
Yes,
seen.
she did yesterday on your document, and she used, I'll call it lavender font. In the old days, I would have called it purple, but
Okay, so she didn't edit my document. She added a document.
added on. She put the initials KP : and then typed in.
Okay, yeah, I see it. It's a separate document. So we could probably then delete my document to try to avoid some of the
Well,
confusion
yeah, I'll
about.
clean it up so that only the most current documents are in those file folders. As I said, I'm struggling with learning this new operating system, and I think I made a mistake upgrading from Windows 8 to Windows 10, but Microsoft said they weren't supporting Windows 8 anymore, so they kind of forced you to do that. It's kind of soft. If there are no more comments about our progress on chapter 5, and I must compliment Peter and the other commenters on it. We've made more progress on this chapter has been made in the entire duration of how long this committee has been in functioning. And it's a number of years, so I'm very happy to see this progress.
Could, for the minutes, Peter, could you summarize what the decisions were made and the next steps?
I will take the existing Madaket Area Plan Chapter 5 notes, I think we're calling them, and turn them into an initial set of policy positions for the Madaket Area Planning Group.
I think that's what we're all doing as we work on these chapters.
And
And
that-
then
and
that'll be
that-
circulated. That'll be posted on the Google as a document on our on whatever it's called,
Google Drive.
Google Drive, thank you. And then people can edit that document. And I would add that they should just edit the one document and not create a separate document. I just think that will be a little bit easier. And I think it permits you to do that if someone's in the middle of editing a document and you try to edit yourself. I think it tells you
I
to
think
wait.
that's a good plan. I would also make a suggestion that if you do go into one of these documents like this one and want to offer some comments, in addition to your initials, it would be helpful if you put the date. So I think that would be helpful. Okay, let's go on to chapter 1.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, any other questions on chapter 5?
No, I was just thanking.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for thank youing. Chapter 1 is a subcommittee of basically one person, me. And I started writing it up. The initial goals and policy, that's what chapter 1 is. The initial document in the 2006 Madaket Area Plan was 3 sentences, taking up 2 paragraphs. I've expanded on this too much, and there are a number of pages that need to be culled down. Thankfully, Michael Maynard was able to come over and share a cigar with me and talk to me about this. And a good chunk of chapter 1 is basically 2 pieces. One is a little bit of background about what we are doing overall with the area plan and why we're doing it. And it doesn't really fit into any particular chapter, but it's a good introduction and it sets the pace for what we're doing. And it's got a little bit of background about how we created the initial document, and it talks a little bit about updating the plan. And then it goes into policies, goals and policies. And essentially there's a list of goals that I think needs to be read by all of the folks on the work group in the Google Drive, where you can say, oh, Bruce, you're overreaching here. This goal doesn't apply to Madaket, or you've misstated it, or just give me your ideas. And there's not many, there's probably about 10 goals that range from things like reestablishing the Madaket Advisory Board to the HDC, to talking about supporting the elimination of the fertilizer use, which can obviously go in another chapter now. Talks about the value of dark skies, amending the antiquated and inadequate Madaket boundary from the original boundary that encompassed one of our neighborhoods, and we now have almost 17 neighborhoods here on the west end due to the incredible development that's taken place in the last 16 years. or 18 years. And then the chapter goes into a section called policy, because that's the title, goals and policies. And there's a lengthy list of policies that Michael and I both agreed on that it's way too long, but I did that intentionally so that I could grab comments and different documents that we have been sharing over the last 6-7 years about our thoughts on how Madaket should be growing and controlled and things like that. And I worded them up as policies, understanding that the group would cull them down. So I would like the group to take a look at that and help with that. And I had sent you out, I think, a copy of this dated August 1st. But before you really tromp through that, and it gets to be a number of pages, Michael has suggested, instead of listing things like the neighborhoods and the beaches that we have access to out here, there are like 18 beaches, that we create an appendice or an exhibit that lists them for someone that might be interested to go to the back of chapter 1 and say, oh, here's the list, okay. And there would be a map there, a graphic that shows the beaches with the numbers that the town uses for emergency access. And I thought that was a good idea, and that'll call that chapter down. So that's pretty much where that is. And does anyone have any questions or suggestions about chapter 1? I want to keep the meeting to an hour, and we're at about 12-13 minutes left.
So what are the next steps that that should be included in the minutes?
The next
Chapter 1.
The next steps to chapter 1, I believe, is for me to re-edit it based on several hours of discussion with Michael. You got to stop those long cigars. And cull this down and reinsert the updated chapter into the Google Drive. And if any of you are interested in reading it one-on-one, let me know. I don't think that would violate the open meeting law for me to share a document with you that you could then read on your own. So we're good there. Joe is nodding, so I think I'm somewhat okay on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Just
welcome.
a quick comment. You know, when Bruce and I worked on this thing, it seemed that this is the first piece that anyone's going to read when the plan comes in. And there's really two audiences, one of which is the town authorities, for lack of a better term. And the rest of the people reading are going to be largely Madaket residents, but ultimately people all over the island. And it seemed Bruce had, you'll see if you haven't read it yet, there's a lot of detail. And I suggested that think about this as maybe an executive summary, which is no more than 4 to 5 pages, so that someone reading that would understand what the area plan is, its history, how it came to be where we are. It would identify the chapters and actually even do a highlight, which we can't fill in yet until the committees have done their work, of what the recommendations are. And then you could go to, you move out of that into, we'll call it chapter 1 now in detail, where Bruce really gets in the thick of it. And again, you know, maybe you've got 4 or 5 appendices. So when he's got a detailed section of maps of watershed and other stuff, for someone who's really interested, they have the opportunity to really dig in. But you want to be sure that the average rank and file member of the community can, with a relatively quick read, get an idea of what's going on and where we come out. Because my fear would be, when I looked at this thing, it's very thick reading. It's all very important, but the average person might, after a page or two, just say, oh my God, this is too much.
Yeah, and he made good suggestions. For example, in the body of the document, I had an example of our current boundary from 2006. And I had an example of essentially an amended boundary that encompasses all of the 17 or so neighborhoods that now exist out here. So he suggested move that into an appendix. Someone could look at it if they're interested, but it's not going to take up so much space in the document. And his idea for an executive summary, you know, Michael mentioned 4 or 5 pages. I don't envision the executive summary taking up more than a page or so. So that's what I'm going to try to work on. And some of you that know my prior involvement in some subjects out here in Madaket, I can get too detailed, and I don't want to put anybody to sleep again. But that's my next objective. And if there's no more questions about chapter 1 or suggestions, I would urge you to, you know, wait a couple of days. I'll notify everybody by a quick email saying that I've posted a new chapter 1 revision. So I'll say, and you can go look at it. And if you want me to send you a copy, I think I can. I think we already talked a little bit about chapter 8, which is circulation, and we're going to have Mike Burns talk about that. And there are a couple of folks here that have volunteered to be the chairperson and the sub-work group for chapter 8. And I would like them to start thinking about that. I shared with you Mike's apology email for missing several requests to participate. And he listed some suggestions in that email. And if you combine his suggestions with what the requirements for that chapter are, and the document that I sent out months ago that lists some ideas ranging from yard sales that consume roadways and encroachment onto roadways and where the NERDA bus stop is and how it operates. These are all transportation issues. The town approved Mike's overall island transportation plan. And there is a specific chapter in it, 3 or 4 pages from Madaket. I think I shared that with the work group some time ago, but I will send out another memo or something directing you to that document and to the actual pages that pertain to Madaket. There's like 200 pages in that document, and the town approved it. I don't think, what else do I have on that? Let me look, hold on a second. We had volunteers for that. Essentially, it says circulation provides an inventory of existing and proposed circulation and transportation systems. We're going to take it a little deeper than that, as Mike suggested when he said emergency exit out routes for Warren's Landing, Yield Point. And he wants to talk about improvements to Ames Avenue, Massasoit Bridges, the resilience improvements for Madaket Road. So he's got an idea of what he wants to talk about. And based upon what he discusses with us, we can craft a pretty good circulation plan. And of course, back in January 8th, 2024, I sent you a list of the chapter volunteers. And I'm looking at now, and it says Lars, Tom, and Bruce are the volunteers for that subgroup. And of course, I would say Lars and Tom are going to have to kind of act as subgroup chairpersons, but there's about 8 bullet points on that list. It's a document that the file name is MAP dash chapter volunteers of as of January 7th, 2024. And it covers all chapters. Does anybody have any other questions about dealing with the circulation chapter, or Mike? Okay, seeing none.
Can I
The
just say something,
last,
Mr. Chair?
Chapter real quickly,
Bruce.
is of course chapter 7.
Bruce,
We've kind of
Bruce.
already discussed.
Can I just add one thing about Mike Burns? So,
Oh, please.
yeah, so we're really excited that the free ridership is working on the wave and we want to renew it. But I think what would be really great is when he comes, just show support and let him know that we really are interested in this. And I think it's really an important thing. And then the other thing I just want to share, just as a BPAC, but it dovetails into Mike, is that I am writing an article for next town meeting, not this one, the annual town meeting, which is basically going to put a speed limit on the bike paths. And I know that's been something that you are, you were working on earlier, Bruce, I think last year. But basically, not having a speed limit of more than 10 miles an hour on any like a bike path or way. And then when you come into 10 feet of a pedestrian or a dog or anything, you don't exceed more than 5 miles an hour. And then you get a bell or something and then just kind of let the pedestrians know that you're coming to them, and just kind of bring that to town meeting, get a class E3 bikes off the bike path, don't have a bike, e-bikes out of control. So that is something I'm moving forward. And then just etiquette. And I think that was really important. I know that you were hoping to remove them all off the bike paths, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So I just sent that to Mike today and we're working on that for next town meeting. So I just want to give you a heads up.
Oh, thanks for that, Joe. If you want to get together, I'll be happy to review my experience going through the FinCom and the CONCOM with my article, where I basically got my brains beat out by about 4 people who were very influential in watching it. But their comments, whether you think they're legitimate or not, are still going to come up again and need to be addressed. So I want to, forewarn.
Yeah, let me sit down with Mike and then you and I will sit down. I think it would be wise.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that something is going to happen. We've had several incidents, just so you know, recently in Madaket, where people have been hit by bikes, obviously going well over 20 miles an hour. We've had ambulance calls for the bike path and things like that. So it's an interesting subject. Does anybody have anything else they would like to discuss, Peter?
I have a quick question for Joe. And I don't want to dive into a big new issue, and I know we're right up against it, but the format, my understanding is that these area plans, the local area plans kind of, for lack of a better term, roll up into the master plan. What is the format that is going to be best for you, and where do they end up in the master plan? How is the master plan formatted so that we can figure out the best way to state our positions and our policies? Is there a master plan with 9 township appendices, each of which is a local area plan? Can you give us a little insight into that so we know what's the best way to provide this information to you?
So,
or to them?
It's not me. But what I think, everything we're doing, we're putting it together. And as I said, when I first got on here, it's your voice. It's Madaket. In my email, I said that, a parent loves all the kids, but they're all different. So to that ilk, Madaket will have its own, we don't want X, Y, and Z. We want, this control. And I think, based off of that and these area work groups, as these are finalized, then what I would say is give them to the NPDC and Leslie and Megan, and then we will review them. If there's any edits, that's great, or not. Then what that will happen is then Leslie will say, these are great. Judy Barrett and Barrett, consultant group, here is this information. And the other thing, what I mentioned in my email was there'll be some form of categorization, whether it's numerical or whether it's alphabetical or whatever that system is, that moving forward when we do this, that will automatically be uploaded into the town, into the department, in Madaket area plan, if you will. Let's keep to that. Then that when Judy Barrett wants to keep provide an update. She goes in and knows exactly where to go and how it's all categorized. And so Madaket is different than town and town involvement, et cetera, going across the island, if you will, very briefly and highlights. But that information then becomes current. And then that master plan every year to 2 years, 3 years, depending on what comes about, that will be updated. So like something like the e-bikes, you know, we're behind. The e-bikes are way out in front of it. They're all over the bike path. So how do we bring that? How do we get current equal to? And this is something we're trying to do. So my question to Judy was like, can you create some organization system so as we get done, that gets shared upstream, so to speak?
That's helpful. Is it my sense that is this copy and paste our document into a master plan, or do you read through it and get the substance and restate it?
My
As
understanding, my understanding, it would be a cut and paste, because that's like Monomoy is 99% done. And you know, one of the things they had in there were the Comcast building. Well, we can't do that because everything is in that building. The solar panels in Comet, it's out of their jurisdiction. It is something that is of value to them. We get that, but stick to your area plan, submit that, then reach out about, hey, we have a problem about the Comet solar panels, which have been nixed. And then their other concern was they were worried about commercial STRs, but at town meeting, we voted that out. So they just need to edit that document to remove some of the stuff. And then we would have probably approved their work group area plan.
Okay, so given that what we end up with is a series of goals and policies, and again, I'm being really simplistic here, but it's a whole bunch of goals. Here's the goal, here's Madaket's goal, here's Madaket's preferred or requested policy. I don't even know how we state it. That's Madaket's position. And so you will state it as Madaket's position. And then do you take all the positions and say, given what 9 different townships have said, this is where we think we land as a community, as a Nantucket Island position?
Yeah, so it's taking all those groups and then what's the whole thing, looking at it broad and how does it work for the areas and stuff like that.
So it's conceivable that Madaket and Sconset might have very different, and I'm being contentious here, might have different opinions about a particular position on something. Yeah. And so Nantucket, you guys have to decide what's in the best interest of the island generally.
Yeah, I mean, let's just use transportation. Like if you said we don't want it, we're like, well, it's really important to get the bus system up there. But but like I said, you know, Madaket has its own architectural style, its own life, its own, you know, you come out here on a Wednesday night and like to say, go have dinner at, you know, and then you just walk the streets and you just realize it's you don't even feel like you're on Nantucket. It is magical. It's very quiet. You go to Sconset and you walk around and it's a totally different vibe, and it has, you know, the architecture and the density is completely different, and they have different needs. So that's where like you have to pay attention to that's their style. That's the type of architecture, and you know, doing a plan like we were talking about, you know, creating with Madaket in mind. I think that's extremely important to define the architecture that you all have, you know, inherited.
Okay. Is it safe to say, and I'll shut up after this, is it safe to say that you, before the town writes its consolidated position on all of these 9 townships, that you will take the 9 area plan, whatever that number is, 9 or 8 plans, 13. You'll get all that, you'll get all of those plans in? Because there was some confusion on the emails that went back and forth about what work was done in advance of receiving our local plans.
So right now it's Madaket, town, and Monomoy. Those are the 3 still outlying, if you will. We all are kind of on the end. Madaket, town has been moving very quickly lately, which is great. Monomoy, like I just said, is 99%. So once they finalize and they edit their thing, I will see that probably in the next meeting or the meeting after, where we approve that. So then town, what we don't want to do is have every area work plan going at once because it's just way too much work, as you guys are finding out. So what's going to happen is, Judy Barrett said, oh, I'll be done by the first of the year. Now she just said it's probably going to be like April or May. So that gives us a little more time. And then what she's going to do is when we get a chapter and we're happy with it, then we share it. And then that goes upstream. And then Judy's like, oh, I'll input that. So before she issues it, if we're 1 or 2 chapters away or something like that, or we're doing edits, then I think she's like, I'll wait until June. I want it to be complete. And then after that, that's why I'm saying that then we keep moving. I think technology's caught up to us where this information can be shared any way, shape, or form. I mean, we're all sitting at home, which is fantastic. And I think the other part of it is that this has all been helping us move quicker along, moving along a lot faster.
All right, that's helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't think you'll lose sight of the fact that, we are a local area plan, one of many that gets fed into the Nantucket master plan that's required by the state. But additionally, the Madaket area plan is meant to serve as a guideline for people who want to build here, buy here, live here, rent here, be guests here in Madaket. So it functions as a guide for how we envision the Madaket community of 11 or 17 neighborhoods, how we envision that area to function. And then it's up to the MPDC to try to fit us into the jigsaw puzzle of an entire Nantucket area plan. But what's most important to me, at least, is that we have expressed how the citizens of our 17 neighborhoods want this entire community known as Madaket to function.
Yeah, and so the other part of it, don't forget, once this is done, this is this area plan, it really is for the planning board. So it's when something comes up in your neighborhood, we're like, all right, well, what does Madaket want? Let's make sure we're fitting within the confines. No one wants, and I know there's an article at the town meeting, I don't think anyone wants downzoning, and it's, so that's where I think we really need to be careful of what we want to do going forward. And this is where this information that we're all gathering and putting together and working for Madaket is really important, because that will be viewed upon, and that's something we will refer to and say, this is what Madaket wants, and we'll take that under, with a lot of importance.
Well, before we wrap up the meeting, I see that JP's got his hand up. Does anybody object to a member of the public speaking about this?
No, sir.
Could you be quick? Because everybody wants to go get a cocktail.
Yeah, I hear you. That makes count me in on that idea. Downzoning, I'm really sorry for the rookie question. Can you just use that word? It was not a term I actually am familiar with.
So let's say you have 20,000 square foot lots, and all of a sudden downzoning would mean you go to 5,000 square foot lots. So I don't think anyone wants that density. So that's where we're trying to find a balance. We're trying to get everyone's input. There's one right now, it's coming up at town meeting, and I don't know if you guys, I just got an email from Erica Mooney that has the articles all in there. And so there was something in Midtown where it's R20 and he wants to go down to R5. So as a planning board member and the FinCom, we rejected that. So, or not to adopt is our motion. So
Just a definition question. Thank
you. There's a lot of it going on, so it's fine.
You're not alone in it. It's always confusing.
Yeah.
And I would say the document, the Madaket area plan document, is not only for the planning board, but for the HDC and the Concom as well. Anybody who's making decisions, they do like to understand what the local neighborhood wants.
Yes, and I'm speaking from my chair, so
Yeah, you're planning board, but the HDC wants it too.
Yes. No, but that's why I think your document of what building with Madaket in mind. I think that's going to be an amazing document. So
it's a critical document, not only from the point of the view of the local communities, 17 communities. We have a whole bunch of conservation property out here that we're essentially trying to speak for as well, not speak for them as a single entity, but to speak to them as, for them as a member of the community, which is why we're happy to have Kitty, input from Emily when we can, and like that. And, you know, they were originally put on the Madaket Area Plan Work Group in order to provide input like that, which obviously Kitty has done, and we appreciate. And it'll be ongoing. And we're picking up a head of steam. We're moving more quickly than we have in the past. And I would like to help any of you that need help. I'll move things along as quickly as I can, including the adjournment of this meeting if somebody will make a motion.
So move.
Next meeting, yeah,
All
next
those in
meeting will be
favor of
September 13th.
adjourning, raise your left hand. Very good. Okay, this meeting is declared as adjourned. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This is a pretty good meeting, and I really think we're making good progress. Thank you
Bruce,
all.
Leslie, just, I want to make sure everyone heard her suggestion or proscription for the next date.
Yes.
September 13th, 2020.
Oh, that's right. I should have done that. Shame on me. And JP, get your letter in fast.
Yep.
To NPDC, and please, if you don't mind, copy me.
Yep.
It,
I'm gonna
it
try
might,
to
it might
email
get,
it to Joe and,
yeah, it might get, yeah, call me and then it might get on August's agenda. So,
oh, great.
so chop chop.
That's
Bruce,
that's
do you
great.
want to send him contact info for us if he wants to reach out to any of us? I mean, I don't know how to reach him.
I'd be happy to send him a list of the members of the work group with their contact information.
We just all got an email from JP. He has all our email. I mean, I assume
Okay,
somehow.
okay.
Right.
We
That's
have
right.
all our
I
email.
just don't want to send
Okay,
that out
we're
so
all
it gets
set then.
confused to anyone, but JP, hurry up with your letter. That's why I gave you the link to see, so you can see how other people respond to the select board when they're applying for a committee. And maybe that'll help you craft your letter, but I wouldn't wait too much longer.
I'll hop right on it, guys. Thank you all.
Kitty, everybody,
Have
thank
a
you
good
so much.
weekend.
for
All
Bye.
right, guys,
the
take
quorum.
care.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks.